Hello and welcome aboard the Gallant Says podcast, live at youtube.com/Paul Gallant, twitch.tv/Gallant Says, on Twitter at Gallant Says, Instagram at Sports Gallant, and facebook.com/Paul Gallant Sports. You can typically catch it Monday and Thursday nights, and occasionally after major Houston sporting events, like tonight. It's also available after the fact, wherever you get your podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. If you haven't already, like this video, subscribe to my channels, leave a nice rating, review on wherever you get your podcasts. And if you ever have a question, you can shoot it at gallantsays@gmail.com. It is January 20th, 2024. And today fucking sucks. Because the fifth time was not the charm for the Houston Texans to kick the door down and get Houston back to a conference championship for the first time since 1979 and the first time ever in Texans franchise history. They're still the NFL's only team to never make it to a conference championship after a 34-10 blowout loss against the clearly superior Baltimore Ravens. It was almost kind of close. It was 10-10 at halftime. It could have been 13-10 at halftime. But I think the sobering, very hard bitch slap of reality is that you scored on a 67-yard punt return touchdown, a 50-yard field goal, and you missed a 47-yard field goal. You never got inside the Ravens' 25. Ultimately, it was exactly the kind of loss that I'm sure a lot of Ravens fans who are coming in here to rub their nipples and get happy about a person who was hoping for the best for the team in town. Pandering is good for business, not talking shit. We ain't the Northeast. No one's going to care about the Houston Texans probably for the next couple of weeks. No one's going to want to hear about them in my industry, in my town for the next couple of weeks. And when a team like the Ravens matches up against a young team with a first-year head coach and a first-year quarterback and a first-year offensive coordinator, pretty much the entire country, I think, was expecting the experienced team to grind slowly and brutally the young and experienced team into a fine paste. And that's what we got. I think you could point to a couple of moments where this game was lost. I mentioned it a moment ago. 37 seconds to go in the first half. Kaimi Fairbairn misses a 47-yard field goal. First drive of the second half, the Ravens march down the field. Texans actually marched down the field back with 8:06 to go in the third quarter, down 17-10. Bobby Slowick called a double reverse throwback to C.J. Stroud. I suppose if the blocking was a little bit better, that play would have gone far, but it ends up being a loss of 5 yards to Xavier Hutchinson. And from that point on, 2nd and 15 from the Baltimore 44. You get an incomplete pass, you get a 1-yard throw to Dalton Schultz. You don't get any closer for a Kaimi Fairbairn field goal. You punt. The Ravens get the ball at the 7. Okay, defensive stop. Maybe this thing can still be a game, but Baltimore answered with a 12-play, 93-yard, back-breaking touchdown drive. And to make it a little bit worse, if you take a look at that early third quarter Ravens touchdown drive, Baltimore had a 2nd and 7 at Houston's 24 with 12:52 to go. Jalen Petrie, who has been a sore subject for a lot of Texans fans all year, gets in Lamar Jackson's throwing lane, puts his hand up, and the ball actually hits his left hand, but it still goes through for a first down completion for the Ravens. And on the very next play, Jackson tries to hit his wide receiver likely in the end zone. And Petrie makes a great play on the ball, but his hands were like this, so he can't catch it. No interception. It was still close to being a catch. As someone who played high school football, I had a play like that I'm still pissed about because I only had one interception my senior year. I was more of a tackler at safety. No one threw it back in 2006, and I dove for a ball, and I did the same thing. Hands like this instead of like this. No interception. You wonder what happens if that interception takes place, but the very next play after Petrie doesn't pick it off, Lamar Jackson scrambles up the middle for a touchdown. So here you are. Season's done. And I know for a lot of us, hey, you didn't expect the Texans to win 10 games, to win the division, to win a playoff game, to actually hang around in a game against the 1 seed for the first half. But right now, I'm more glass half empty than glass half full. I am offering unlicensed Texans therapy right now, but I feel like I need a little bit of that therapy because you never know when you're going to get back. And there's some clear holes on this Texans team. And, you know, it could be as simple as the Ravens defense, which has Mike McDonald as defensive coordinator, but lots of good pieces, especially at middle linebacker. It might be just that Ravens defense is the perfect matchup for a Texans team that has always struggled to run the football this year. And they couldn't do anything on the ground. And it also could be that, like, the Texans defense just can't win a game for it right now. They don't have the depth on the defensive line at linebacker. Because as the game wore on, Baltimore had an easier and easier time running the football. But there's another part of me that wonders if you're ever going to have an AFC where it felt like things were this uncertain. Again, obviously Baltimore, the class of the AFC with the way that they played the last couple of months, like no question about it. You know, they fucked up Miami. They picked off Brock Purdy 4 times and beat San Francisco convincingly. Beat Jacksonville convincingly, though Jacksonville shot themselves in the foot a lot. Like, this was a very, very good Baltimore team. And my hope is that this was just the worst possible matchup. But lots of things that they're going to have to figure out over the course of the offseason. We're going to have plenty of time to talk about it, whether it's on this show or on my radio show. In the meantime, let's take a look at some of the comments. Brent Desmuke says, "What's up, Paulie? What up?" JC Squared says, "Still love the speech. I appreciate that." Perhaps a little TMI. You can check that out in one of my videos. Ravens fans, you can laugh at it too. Have fun with it. This is all about fun. You make predictions, but everyone makes predictions. Everyone has assholes. Everyone has mouths. Predictions are so fucking dumb. You know, I make them, but what do you think I'm going to do? Say like, yeah, the Texans are going to lose this one. They're frauds. No, fuck that. I'm going to ride the fucking wave, baby. Pander some more. This isn't a get mad at the team when they lose town. This is a, like, ride the wave, and when they're not doing well, talk about something else town. Luckily, we got Josh Hader to talk about on Monday for the Houston Astros. Another comment from Brent, youtube.com/Paul Gallant. Didn't end how we wanted it to, but goddamn did Bobby Slowick get outcoached. There is going to be a lot of focus on Bobby Slowick for this, and I think it's going to be largely unfair because he interviewed with the Titans and Panthers on Thursday and because he's scheduled for interviews with the Falcons, Commanders, and Seahawks tomorrow. I don't think you can lay this entire thing at his feet. You don't have Noah Brown. You don't have Tank Dell. And yeah, you got to play with what you've got. But it really did feel like for Texans receivers, everything was difficult. And yeah, Stroud under pressure. He missed a wide open Nico Collins on a crosser. I think the pressure eventually got him to a point where he was having just a difficult time being able to get through his reads because he was constantly having to run for his life. Credit to him, no fumbles, no interceptions. But can you win if you just have Nico Collins and Dalton Schultz, who I wonder if he's going to get another contract here? Had another drop. He made up for it a little bit later, but it really was Stroud throwing to Nico Collins and Stroud throwing to Devin Singletary. Collins had 5 catches for 68 yards on 10 targets, and Devin Singletary is the only other guy who you could get the football to. 5 catches for 48 yards. That's a running back. You're checking it down most of the time to him because of the pressure you were under. I thought he had a good game. I hope Devin Singletary's back next year. Obviously, not great on the ground, but what the fuck was he supposed to do, you know? Schultz has 5 catches for 43 yards. It's just 3 guys receiving passes. Xavier Hutchinson had 2 catches for -3 yards. Robert Woods, I barely even noticed he was out on the field. 1 catch for 6 yards. Brevin Jordan, only 1 target. It was that another cute play that they ran that got deflected by a Ravens defensive tackle. It was a little bit of misdirection and essentially like a screen up the middle of the field, it seemed like. Or maybe it was a crosser. And Stroud was under pressure, so the throw wasn't great. So there you go. Bobby Slowick, not his best performance. Is he the reason they lost? No. Will he be made out to be the reason that they lost? 100%. I think it's rather simplistic to do that, but some people in this town are a little simplistic when it comes to their football takes. Randy B asks on Twitter at Gallant says, Paul, talk about the new uniforms. I know you've seen them. I haven't seen shit. I haven't. I know that they're going to incorporate at least what they told us. This was, again, a year ago. That was the last time I got some preview. I think the flagship gets the majority of the insider information when it comes to that, but I believe they're incorporating an H-related logo and that there will be some version of light blue, but I don't know if they're getting a light blue jersey. I think it's more going to be like some light blue accent on a couple of the jerseys. Zach Bargerstock comments, always next year. I've said my entire life. I know. Like that's, I hate saying always next year. I hate saying that. And I mean, you can tell yourself that right now, but that might not be the case. Dave's not here, man. 713 says, Instant Classic on Fox in the NFC divisional round, and you go live on Twitch. I don't give a fuck about the NFC game. I don't give a fuck. Instant Classic? No. Here to talk about the Texans game because I live in Houston. That game, whatever. I'll watch the highlights. H-Town Texans 713. We let a running back beat us. Shaking my head. Don't besmirch Lamar Jackson like that. There's a lot of people who I know are going to be coming to this video after the fact and say, Paul, you said Lamar Jackson sucks. Never said that. I think Lamar Jackson's a top 5 quarterback. His legs are the difference. I think Stroud is a better thrower of the football than Lamar Jackson. I don't think that today changes really anything as far as who's a better thrower of the football. But Jackson's legs are a big difference. And I did bring that up a lot over the course of my radio show this week and on this show. His legs, along with any quarterback that can run, that is a massive thing to have in your back pocket when you're playing in shitty weather. And that was shitty weather today. The wind was high. It was cold. It's difficult to catch passes, difficult to throw passes. And Jackson has that element, and he's the best running quarterback since Michael Vick. Don't call him a running back. That's not fair at all. He is a good quarterback. I'm happy for him that he gets this because I feel like he has been unfairly criticized in the past. That was a narrative about him going into these playoffs, is that he's not a good playoff quarterback. But I do think some of that had to do with Greg Roman. And honestly, the Texans defense did a pretty good job against him in this game too. Much like the first game, 16 of 22 for 152 yards. He was accurate and he made the right decisions, but nothing came easy. It was just when they ran, like they had no answer. And as the game wore on, Justice Hill and Gus Edwards, even fucking Dalvin Cook eventually, as the game wore on, it just was a tired Texans defense that was getting pushed on its ass. And ultimately, Baltimore ends up with 42 carries for 229 yards, a 5.5 yards per carry average, while the Texans are just 14 for 38. Penalties. The Texans had 11 for 70. The Ravens had 3 for 15. And another discrepancy, time of possession. The Ravens had the ball for 37 minutes and 35 seconds. The Texans for 22 minutes and 25 seconds. The Shasta. Some of y'all forgot Slowick is a rookie offensive coordinator. Well, I would say the national conversation forgot that he's a rookie offensive coordinator. This cutesy stuff pops up, and it's been interesting talking about Bobby Slowick for most of this year because one week it feels like the general consensus on him, at least here in Houston, is that, wow, he's great. He's going to be somewhere else soon. And the other weeks where the offense wasn't doing it was like, this guy fucking sucks. It's somewhere in between. And I think a lot of teams across the league, they want to hire a guy who runs offenses similar to the way that Kyle Shanahan runs offenses, because clearly that's been working wherever, for the most part, it's gone. So maybe he still gets hired, but this definitely sends his stock down. I think it's unfair to lay it all at his feet. I really do think ultimately this is just a discrepancy in talent. And that sucks, because now you got to wait 8 months and hope that they get better. Shasta says, can't wait for next year. Yeah, I can't either. This is going to suck. 8 months of this. Like, thank God the Astros added Josh Hader, and they went all in for one more run, and maybe, I don't know, it would be crazy if they signed Blake Snell too, but I doubt that's going to happen. I'm shocked that they spent money. You know, during my little motivational speech, if you listen to it on the radio, I said, pay Josh Hader, Jim Crane. Don't be a little bitch. Just kidding, we're friends, bro. You know, this is how friends talk to friends. This is how jocks talk to jocks, you know. College legendary pitcher Jim Crane, legendary high school safety at the lowest level of Florida in a very, let's just say, not diverse league. Paul Galot. Dead Shred 9. 3 points was not going to matter at all after putting 31 points on our defense and made it look easy. Enough about the damn field goal miss. Yeah, I'm just saying there was a moment where it could have been 13-10 at halftime. You have a little more confidence in yourself if you have the lead. You missed that field goal. And the next time you're even in field goal range, would they have kicked a field goal if they were at the Ravens 39? You know, after that double reverse play got blown up, you wonder. Michael Johnson is talking shit. YouTube.com/Paul Gallant. Yeah, they did get beat bad. Yeah, no one's denying that. Zach Bargerstock says Bobby can go to Amy Adams Skunk. Wouldn't mind seeing what Gerard Johnson can do in charge with Stroud. They seem to have a great relationship. I love Gerard Johnson. I'll tell you this about Gerard Johnson. So back at the flagship station, we once had a combine, and Gerard Johnson helped me shave a full 0.2 seconds off of my 40 time in 10 minutes. He showed me how to run the proper stance. So fastest 40 I ever ran, at least like measured, a 4.8, was thanks to Gerard Johnson. How about that? Brent DeSmookie says our offensive line had too many penalties. We were laughing about this while watching the live stream. We did a live stream, ESPN 97.5 and 92.5, the ESPN YouTube channel, which we're going to be live streaming on from here on out, where first false start of the game happens. We're all like, lock of the year, it's Laramie Tunsil. But everyone got called for false starts. Shaq Mason got called for it. Drew Scruggs got called for it. I don't know if George Fant got called for it. It's a loud place to play. And the Ravens have an actual home field advantage. That's one of the better, I think, football fan bases in the league. It's forgotten. You know, you always think about like Pittsburgh. You think about Buffalo. But that is a loud place. And it's smart football fans. Like, they've been good for most of the last 24 years, you know, 2 Super Bowls along the way, and one of the few teams that actually beat the New England Patriots multiple times in the playoffs. So, yeah, they love football there. They love that team. They play, it seems, the same style always. You wear those purple and black uniforms, you look like you're flying all over the fucking field. And there they are with another team that's got great defensive players. I thought that the team that the Texans lost to in 2011 and 2012 is still better. I still do. Joe Flacco's the quarterback that won a Super Bowl. See if Lamar Jackson's able to get past the next round of the playoffs. But, I mean, that was a defense that, yeah, it was still with a aging Ray Lewis, still an aging Ed Reed, Terrell Suggs, but like that team, I think, was better than the one that's out there today. But, hey, if the Ravens win against Buffalo or against Kansas City next weekend, then hey, I'll totally change my tune on that front. More comments here. H-Town, Texas. Relax. Don't get mad at Michael. Justin Terrell comments. John McClain is the king of tweeting hindsight football takes 30 seconds after a play. Grandpa needs to go in a home. Man, don't be mean. Let's not take it out on other people. Like, they just got outclassed today. You know? H-Town CJ comments, youtube.com/Paul Gallant. Just tuned in. It was a run. Matchup wasn't great. We were supposed to be a top 5 pick team. It's bright side tonight. Somehow as a beaten Texans fan, I'm not bummed, and excitement is new. That makes me feel a little bit better. It was a fun season. They won a game in the playoffs. They won the division. It's going to be tougher next year, though. First place schedule. Colts team that's going to have a healthy Anthony Richardson. Jaguars aren't going to suck, but will they be around the same level, like a 9-8 team? Probably. Titans are going to be bad. Who knows who they're going to hire as head coach? Who knows what the future is for Will Levis? But just the idea that you got to wait 8 months, that is what sucks the most for me. And I'm hoping that people see the bright side as opposed to the final score today. And that's tough. If you've been following this team for a couple of years, I understand the mindset that this is the same old Texans. It's not the same old Texans. Like, I feel very good about the future with CJ Stroud and with DeMeco Ryans. But, yeah, when you get throttled like this, like, there are going to be some people who are like, I hate to say it, but this is a bit of a bandwagon city. Like, when things are going well, people want to hear about it. I'm taking a look at the numbers that we have on the YouTube right now. There's only 54 people watching on all my combined platforms, which pisses me off a little bit. You know, I already did a post-game show on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5's radio airwaves and on YouTube. But, like, that's how it is. When they lose here, people don't want to hear about it. Same thing happened to me when the Astros lost. The post-game show we did after they lost in 7. People don't like to hear about teams here in town losing. And, you know, with the way the last couple of years have been, I can understand why some people are like, same old. I would just encourage you to believe that this is not the same old, same old. Rick the Ruler says it reminds me of the Kubiak days. Reminds of a 2024 version of Andre Johnson, Owen Daniels, Arian Foster. But listen to who you just listed. Like, those are better weapons than what this Texans offense has. Irene Mendez comments, they shot themselves on the foot with so many penalties, but at least the rookies got the playoff experience. They will be back next year. I hope so. Diane Davidson says, no offensive line. The Texans need receivers, running backs, and another safety. Safety, 100%. I think defensive linemen, the offensive line you've invested a shit ton of money in. You kind of have to roll it back the way that it is next year. You hope that a healthy Kenyon Green can give you anything. You hope that either Jarrett Patterson or Scott Quessenberry is going to be healthy at center. You know, like, that's, but it's rough. Up the middle is probably where you need the most help. Rick the Ruler, we need more weapons. You need a healthy Tank Dell, too. At least you have Tank Dell. John Ledig comments, wouldn't hate on Bobby Sloak too much. The Ravens have played Shanahan Tree offensive teams 3 of their last 4 games. That is a great point, that there's a lot of familiarity the last couple. You're right. The Bengals, the last game of the year, Zach Taylor, though it's a little bit different because, you know, his backups for the most part. But, yep, the weekend before, Mike McDaniel. The weekend before, it's Kyle Shanahan himself. That's a great point. Mike Gonzalez, MD, comments on Twitter at Gallant, says, will his play calling affect Sloak's chances of a head coaching job, or is that a lot? Great question. I don't know. I think the people that like him are going to like him. Obviously, it's really about the interviews that he does. People are going to look at what he did with CJ Stroud, and regardless of what happened against Baltimore today, like, they're going to look at the totality as opposed to the one game. How does Sloak, to the people that he speaks with tomorrow, sell himself after a performance like that? I'm curious. I'm curious as to what you do. If I were in his shoes and I had these interviews tomorrow, I'm probably saying, yeah, Tank Dell, we didn't have him. Our offensive line was we were shuffling that all year, and we just haven't been able to run the football for a while. They're going to ask him, like, how much of what you did this year is on CJ Stroud. And honestly, he should be honest and say most of it. But I'm not going to get mad at him for taking those interviews. I think it's unfair to get mad at him for taking those interviews. You would take those interviews too. It's a head coaching job. It's head coaching money. You know, you can get fired and have an amazing buyout. It's life-changing money generationally. And he's 36, so if it doesn't work out, like, there's a chance he'll get another coaching gig at some point. Josh McDaniels can get hired multiple times. Like, anyone can get hired multiple times, you know? More comments. Bleed Blue on twitch.tv/Gallant says, next year will be great. Tell us if the Texans are overachievers or there will be consistent success. I do think they were overachievers to an extent this year. Take a look at their schedule. Tell me who you are really impressed by who they beat. They beat the Bengals. That is legitimately the best victory they had all year. I know they blew out the Browns. The Browns were quarterbacked by Joe Flacco, 39-year-old Joe Flacco, who sounded great, by the way, on the Part of My Take interview that he did. But it's still Joe Flacco. Otherwise, I mean, I think some of the losses they had this year are telling. They lost to the Jets 30-6. They lost to the Falcons. They lost to the Panthers. Those games, at the very least, were close. But the two toughest teams they played all year were the Ravens in week 1, the Ravens today. And, I mean, look at the final score. It combined, do a little math here, a combined 59-19. You know, it's sort of like what the Ravens did in one game against the Miami Dolphins. Rick the Ruler says Lamar Jackson is a cheat code. Dude is like a prime time playing at quarterback. He's just so damn fast. And, you know, he gets a lot of shit. There was a lot of pressure on his shoulders today. I'm curious as to how he looks next week because the pressure's all gotta feel a lot off of his shoulders now. You know, if he plays that well. Midnight Sensei, anyone notice the weather factor when it comes to Stroud's performance this year? Well, the Jets game was in the rain. That's really the only one I can point to, though, because for the most part, he played a lot of games indoors this year, right? Colts indoors, at the Jaguars, that was a nice day. Steelers indoors, Falcons indoors, Saints at home indoors, at the Panthers outside, but the weather wasn't bad in that day. Bucks indoors, at the Bengals. Maybe the weather wasn't great for that game, but that was, you know, an early November. Was it early November? When did that game take place? Mid-November? Yeah, November 12th. So mid-November. Home against the Cardinals, home against the Jaguars, home against the Broncos. At the Titans, that one looked a little chilly. But CJ Stroud didn't play in that game, so I think that's a bit of a reach. H-Town CJ, Lamar's the MVP and he played like it. You give him those plays and we didn't back it up. We gave him a messy pocket, which is what we had to, and they ran out of steam. Yep. Jacob asks, do you think Bobby stays or he still gets a head coaching job after the game? A couple of people have been asking me that. I don't think he's going to get a head coaching job after this. It's going to be a tough sell, but and especially too considering the Eagles and the Cowboys, at least as far as we know. The Cowboys definitely are bringing back Mike McCarthy. The Steelers are bringing back Mike Tomlin, and the Eagles are bringing back Nick Sirianni, it seems. So there's less open jobs. Mike Vrabel still hasn't been hired. Belichick's probably going to Atlanta. I think the lack of jobs probably going to hurt him. If you're Mike McDaniel, too, like Mike McDaniel right now is a hot coaching commodity. Look what he did to C.J. Stroud, who's the rookie of the year. Look what he's done to him twice this season. And look what he's done to all these Mike McDaniel offenses. Or, to these Kyle Shanahan offenses. Let's see. More comments. YouTube.com/PaulGallant. Twitch.tv/Gallant says. Oh, we got a visitor. What do you think, sweetie? Who was this loss on? Was this on a lack of experience? Was this on Bobby Slowick? Was this on the missed field goal? Was this on a lack of depth defensively? What do you think? Can you meow? Are you being camera shy? You're just gonna stare at me? It's your fault. You're the one who stayed in here. It's your fault. Mwah. Bye. That's my cat, everybody, Aria. Yeah, I have a cat. Oh, Paul, you're a pussy if you have a cat. First off, got him. Second, Pats are the perfect cat. Pats. See, I'm a little sauced, I guess, from the Pendle. See, Jesus, I can't even speak English. Listen, cats are the perfect bachelor pet. You can leave, leave some water out, leave some food out. Just got to change the litter box once a day, every other day. Oh, they're perfect. Low stress, baby. More comments. Can't wait to see the new uniforms. Yeah, I guess that's what we have to look forward to this offseason, the draft and that. Should we go after Derrick Henry? I think the idea of going after a running back where you have to pay isn't a bad idea. The problem is the Texans have less cap space than you would think to play with because there are some guys that they're going to have to think about bringing back, like a Jonathan Grenard, among others. They signed lots of guys to 2-year contracts, so theoretically they're going to have a lot of cap space this offseason, but they're going to have to give some of that cap space to guys whose contracts are coming off of the books. Very curious to see how much they'll actually have to play with once they're done determining who they bring back and who they let walk. YouTube.com/Paul Gallant. Twitch.tv/Gallant Says. On Twitter @Gallant Says. Facebook.com/Paul Gallant. My cat is bunting the shit out of my ankles. Dead Shred 9 says, I think speed on both sides was highly in their favor, something we need to upgrade. The first series showed it, in my honest opinion. I thought it was more about physicality than speed in this game. Lamar Jackson's fast, but the offensive line versus the defensive line, I think that was the big discrepancy. Chess Cat, Arya is not fat. Arya is not fat, but she's being very, very needy right now. Can you stop? Can you fuck off? I love you, but fuck off. Slowick needs to go, says Paul Lopa. He runs a gadget play in every single game this year for negative yards. Is he so blind that he just hasn't realized it, or is he just stupid? Jesus, that was vicious. Yeah, he got too cute too many times this year, and it always felt like it disrupted the momentum. And it's funny that he continues to do that, because if you paid attention to him at his press conference this week, he said that he was trying 500 level stuff a la college courses in the first game of the year when he should have been trying 100 level course stuff. But when you see these plays, many of which have not worked out, and there were 2 today. There was the double reverse throwback to Stroud, throwback to Xavier Hutchinson that went for -5 yards. And then there was that wacky play where it almost got intercepted, that throw to Brevin Jordan. Ravens defensive tackle made a great play on that. Those felt like he was trying a little bit too hard. CB says, Nick needs to get his head out of his ass and start signing proven players instead of these one-year no-names. Well, you're good now, so it's different. I don't blame him for not signing anyone to big contracts the last couple of years. But now that you are in contention, yeah, you're going to have to sign some people today. No doubt about it. All right. CB is very not happy. Very unhappy in this one. And we're all unhappy. This sucked. But that's going to wrap up today's little post-game show. It'll be available in podcast form. Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. If you haven't already, like this video on youtube.com/Paul Gallant. Subscribe as well if you haven't already. Or follow me on Twitter @Gallant Says, on Instagram @SportsGallant, Facebook.com/Paul Gallant Sports, or Twitch.tv/Gallant Says. Another episode on Monday night. I'm sure we'll talk about what's next for the Texans. We'll probably talk about Josh Hader as well. We have a radio show Monday at 10. I think we're going to try to avoid talking about the Texans as long as we possibly can. Ugh, this one just sucks. But a tip of the hat to the Baltimore Ravens and whoever they end up playing in the next round. You're going to have your work cut out for you. I am merely Paul Gallant. So long. Farewell. Have yourselves a wonderful rest of your weekend. Thanks for stopping